Welcome. Today we're going to discuss the technique gathering clouds and some of the ways in which we can relate it to other techniques in the American Kenpo system. Now keep in mind that this is not a full comprehensive list or family groupings, but rather different avenues that you can take to explore and start understanding the American Kenpo system a little bit better. So let's start relating it through the concept of ratcheting. Now keep in mind that some of the techniques we're going to be using today are not necessarily considered true ratchets. And the reason being, a ratchet is where you're basically using one weapon, it stops, it then becomes a pivot point so that we can use another weapon to wrap around it. In some of the techniques that we're going to be relating it to, we don't have a true ratchet because we're going to be going from a short range to a long range. The problem is that I have to hit the same spot where the short is, so I'm going to be moving the weapon, so it's not a true ratchet, but rather ratchet-like. If the first move had moved the opponent, and I'm able to do it without moving the elbow, it would be a true ratchet. So keep that in mind as we start our relationships, but let's get into it and it'll make a little bit more sense. So let's start out with gathering clouds. So gathering clouds does the ratchet on a horizontal using the long range followed by the short range. So let's move that to a vertical and do the opposite. Do short range to a long range, and this will give us something like bound to Buddha, where we're doing the elbow, and then again, moving back to do the back fist. But again, if I was to move him with this elbow, I could do a true ratchet by coming back with the back fist. So let's move that up and stay on that vertical and do something where we do the long range, then the short range. This would give us something like bow of compulsion, where we have the long followed by the short. But keep in mind that we can, again, do the short followed by the long using nip to tip. But now let's do it where we do a combination of the two. We did horizontals and we did verticals. Let's do a horizontal with a vertical. And I'm going to be doing it on the opposite side so that it looks easier on the camera. We're going to do shielding hammer. So this is where we can do our horizontal followed by a vertical. But let's do that one more time, but instead of using the arm, using the foot. And this would give us something like backbreaker at the end, where we take them down, and now using our foot on a horizontal and then a vertical to get our last ratchet. So now that we related it to ratcheting, let's start relating it to something simple like scoop kicks. So let's start out with gathering clouds. How are we delivering our scoop kick? Well, if you take a look, I am facing my opponent, so we're front to front, and I deliver a front scoop. So let's do an opposite of that, where we take their back, something like buckling branch, where we're now going to be our front to their back, still doing that front scoop kick, but again, my front to their back. So let's do an opposite of that. Let's do their front to our back. In this case, something like a wings of silk. The interesting thing to keep in mind is I can no longer do my front scoop because they're behind us. So we have to do a rear scoop using the heel rather than the front. So this would give us something like a wings of silk. But is that the only way we can do it? Well, right now it's them facing our back. But what if we started facing each other and then we turned our back to them to do that rear scoop? But instead of doing it to the low, we now do it to the high. This would give us something like intercepting the ram, where we're now turning our body so that we position ourselves the same way we were in Wings of Silk, but now starting facing each other. So let's do one more where we're now going to be facing each other, but we're going to be turning them. And this is going to give us unwinding pendulum, where if you notice, we're turning them so that we can now turn ourselves and be back to back so we can deliver the rear scoop. So the way in which we just related gathering clouds to other techniques in the American Kenpo system was through the scoop kicks and through ratcheting. We hope this video helps you understand the American Kenpo system a little bit better. Thank you very much.